All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to episode 23 of At Home with Mark. And I am super pumped today. I have Matt from Mule Resonator Guitars here. We're going to dive deep into Matt's whole catalog of what he's been doing over the years and building these beautiful instruments and everything. But first and foremost, welcome to the show, Matt. I super appreciate you making time.
Thanks for having me on here so we can nerd out about some steel guitars.
Yeah, man. So I usually start off this show just asking. I have a moment in my life that like totally set me on a trajectory to play music, to pick up a guitar and play it. Is there
Yeah.
can you like go back in time and like is there like a specific moment where you're like, "Oh man, like I want to do this." Can you remember that?
Yeah, I grew up in grade school playing violin, and then when I got into high school, that's when I picked up a guitar, and I think it was just like some friends wanted to start a band and no one played guitar, and I was like, well, I guess I'll volunteer for it, and then I did it for a little bit, and then was gonna sell it and be done playing guitar. And then I think it was freshman year in high school, and then found my first girlfriend, and then was like, oh, I could write songs for girls. I should keep this guitar around. So I think that's how it kind of started. Unfortunately, I wish there was a more substantial motivating factor there. But that really kind of started me down that rabbit hole for music. I didn't grow up in a house where, my parents listened to guitar-centric music. And so, when I bought that first guitar, that PV Predator, that's really like the physical object is what got me into like what people do with this thing, you know. And so it was pretty late, I started listening to guitar-centric music in high school. So I was a little bit behind the eight ball, but that was kind of the kickoff point for me to start hearing what people did on guitar.
Nice. Do you still have that PV Predator?
I don't know, but what was interesting is like I kind of went through this cycle of I got the guitar. And, in high school I was gonna go to a music school. After high school, I was gonna play in bands. That was gonna be my gig. But I got that first PV Predator, and like the first thing I started doing to it was like I refinished it and like started swapping out pickups with it, and I had no business doing it, but that was kind of my inclination, was like, how does this work, and what can I do to it, and how do I make it mine, and that sort of thing. And I should have just like stopped playing. It just kind of went down that further, but it took a while to realize I wasn't a great guitar player and I should stick to building them.
Man, so that was kind of your genesis, right? Of like starting to
Yeah.
tinker. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, I sprayed that thing in like my backyard, hanging from a tree. It was definitely the impetus to like start figuring out how they worked.
That's awesome. What music were you like listening to? Like what was like at the time, like what was inspiring guitar wise? That like, cause I know you said you didn't grow up in a house with that kind of music going on. So like what was it that
Yeah.
lit your fire?
Well, I think might have been a blessing and a curse to come into it later because I had no preconceived notions about guitar music. So it was like anything that I could grab or listen to, whether it was, I mean, the first big guitar, it was a tape that I got with Hendrix's South Saturn Delta, and it was just like, that was like, brain explode, and that got me into like classic rock. But then, I mean, punk music was big then, so if it was Blink 182, it was like, what are these guitar riffs? What is this guitar pop? And then got into hard rock later on with like Black Label Society and stuff, and so it was, yeah, so it was a little bit of everything, which which was good. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't expect the guitar to be a certain thing. It was, oh, you know, it can be, you can play guitar with your fingers, you know, and like, who does that? Oh, this guy Kelly Joe Phelps does that. Okay, well, I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole. I didn't think of myself as a jazz guy or a metal guy or anything like that. I was just listening to guitar music.
That's great. Did you like at the time, like was this still high school in this time or was
Yeah,
this pre? Okay, okay. So
yeah,
post high school, when you're getting a little bit more serious probably now because you know you can write
yeah.
songs. Um, was it still PV Predator land or what was the next guitar? What was like the next piece of gear that you were like, okay, I'm gonna up my game?
Yeah. I think it was an Epiphone Les Paul was next, and then that's then it was the same thing where I kept like tinkering with it and playing with bridges and pickups and stuff. And then and I went to Roberto Venn guitar making school in Phoenix right out of high school, still with this like errant idea that I was going to be a musician with this side gig of like repairing guitars. And and when I was at Roberto Venn, that's when I heard a recording of Kelly Joe Phelps play. And I never had played an acoustic guitar up to that point. It was all electric guitar stuff. And when I heard Kelly play, something else in my head popped, you know, and it was like, this is amazing. I don't have to hit the strings with a pick. I can use fingers, and your thumb can be, you know, using a bass line, and, you know, the more fertile stuff, the more melodic stuff. And then I started getting into building acoustic guitars, and that's kind of what kind of changed the course of my history. So.
Right. That's cool. So when you started getting into all that like Mississippi stuff, Delta stuff, and learning
Yeah.
about playing bass notes and everything,
Yeah.
did that lead into Charlie Hunter? So was that like what exposed you to like more of that thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was Kelly Joe who like kind of showed me, you know, through his music that your right hand can be doing all sorts of different things at the same time while accompanying a voice. And then, so I was going down that rabbit hole, and then I saw a video of Charlie Hunter playing Just a Closer Walk with Thee on the originalguitar.com, and that was the next thing where it was like, not only can you play different parts, but you could be different instruments, you know. And obviously Charlie like is the top of that that game. But that was really informative because it was like, this can be whatever you want it to be. There's not any rule to it, you know. So yeah, and so I started building like fan fret guitars and, you know, going down that rabbit hole. But I think how that came out in my building was not necessarily to make, you know, multi-scale fan fret instruments, but that you could make a tool that really informs someone's playing. Charlie couldn't do what Charlie really does without an instrument that can do what a multi-scale instrument does. And that, I think, came out in the resonators later on, where you can get a resonator and suddenly everything you think about music changes. And it's not this idea that like, if I get my pickups wound a little bit hotter, or I use a brass instead of a nickel silver bridge, you know, that's going to change my world. It's not, you know, it's going to be a little bit of something. It's going to be a little bit of something different, but it's not going to say, oh, what do I do with this thing? Who does anything with this instrument? Let me listen to new people. Let me change the way that I play. So, yeah, in a roundabout way, I think Charlie Hunter's really planted that seed for doing a really different instrument like the resonators.
Wow, that's crazy. Man, I played at NAMM one year. I tried to, the Novak people were there, and I never played like a fan fret instrument before. And I picked it up and I was like, and it was just a 6-string, like a regular 6-string. And I was playing it and I was like, it was so goofy. It didn't feel right. But whoever was working the booth was like, don't look at your hands. Like, I think it's because you're like so acutely aware that these frets are different than you're used to that you want to look to see where you are, but don't pay attention.
Sure.
And then when I did that, it helped, but I was like, I don't know if I can play an instrument like this. Like, I think I would be, maybe after a while it would get easier. Because when I picked up whatever they had, one of the 7 strings or whatever, I was like, this would take me a long time to get used to playing this.
Yeah.
So when you built like a fan fret, because I remember seeing on Instagram, you had a picture of one of the first ones you built that had fan frets. So when you built that, I couldn't tell in the picture, and it's been a while since you posted that, but like, was there bass strings on there and then electric strings? I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah, that was a 10-string guitar.
Oh yeah.
It was all the things. My luthier, my youthful enthusiast luthier brain was exploding with every idea. So I just like crammed them all into this one guitar and got it out of my system real fast. But you know, with like the multi-scale thing, the fan fret thing, I got 2 thoughts on it. So one is that anytime that you pick up an instrument where you go, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know what sounds good on this, it's a really powerful moment, because now you're really being pushed. You know, like weightlifters don't get stronger by doing things that are comfortable. You know, you get uncomfortable and your body goes, okay, I need to figure out how to do this because this guy needs business, and then you get stronger. And I think when guys say, like, you know, like Charlie Hunter, for example, he recommends everyone should learn how to play drums. You know, it's like, do something completely different, totally different, not a little different, not a little comfortable, super uncomfortable. And now you have a mechanism for real intense growth, you know, if you commit to it. And I tell people that with the resonators too. It's like, it's going to be uncomfortable. You know, you're not going to pick it up and you're not going to strum along with your, you know, you're not going to strum Wonderwall on a resonator guitar and have a great time with it. It's going to sound dumb and you're going to go, oh my gosh, what have I done? I spent a bunch of money on this instrument and I can't get it to sound good. And that's exactly the best place to be in. You know, it should be an instrument that wakes up your ear, that smacks you across the face a little bit and goes, people have tamed this beast. Who has done it? What did they do? And now suddenly you're listening to, you know, Rainer Tacek and Chris Whitley and, you know, all these guys. And then suddenly it's like, I didn't know this was a thing, right? Because you got this instrument and it changed the course of how you approach guitar. Now that's worthwhile, you know. Getting the newest sunburst color or the hotter 59s in your Les Paul is not going to change the way that you approach guitar, and could be said that's where you start wasting money. I've been in those gear round robins where I get a guitar and I have it for 6 months and I sell it because I never play it, et cetera, because it's not contributing anything to me. It's the same thing, it just looks different, you know. So, you know, with the multi-scale thing, you know, it can be that where, you know, maybe it really pushes you, and now when you come back to a normal guitar, you hear it with fresh ears, and maybe you can apply something. That being said, though, is like when it comes to the multi-scale thing, is it's a very specific thing. You know, there's a lot of things on that guitar that it's just not going to work with other stuff, you know. So that's kind of the balance and reason why we all have 5 different guitars.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you're talking about like putting yourself in an uncomfortable spot, and I guess I understand the like the weight training thing, getting stronger. Like I felt that way on the exercise bike this morning. I was like, I was like, I'm not going to get my heart rate up and not going to get in better shape if I don't do this. But it's so funny, man, because like a couple years ago, maybe like 2016, 2017, I like really dove into playing in an open tuning, and I needed
Oh,
it
cool.
because I needed to like not be playing in standard because I was bored. I was like so bored
Yeah.
with like what I knew. So every
Yep.
night, like I actually wrote down on a neck on a chart all the notes and open C. This is like Joey was like, try open C. Just slap some
Yeah.
big strings on there. I think you'll have fun. Every night I'd sit down in front of the TV and I would just work on my triads and find everything. And it
Cool.
felt like I was like a little kid again, like not knowing what I was
Yeah.
doing. And that
Yeah.
was the most invigorating year of growth of my musical life.
Absolutely.
It really was. When did you start playing in
Absolutely.
open tunings and stuff?
I didn't really start playing in open tunings until um, like both Seth Lee Jones and Joey Landreth played in open tunings, and I was like, okay, well, everyone that I really like is playing in open D,
Right.
so so I guess I'll try that. Now, I mean, I really only play in those tunings. Um, in open C and open D, um, because I think it's really intuitive. I think like when you tune your guitar to a chord and your major chord shape is a straight line, you know, a lot of guitar players are really just intuitive players. I got 10 minutes 3 times a week to sit down and strum on a guitar. An open tuning is a great mechanism for that. It's easy to figure out, like, you know, you were saying, like, you sat down and found all this stuff. I find it much easier to find things in open tunings than with standard tuning. It makes sense in my brain, and you know, I can, when you combine that kind of intention like you did with finding stuff with the intuitive nature of an open tuning, that's that's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
that's the headspace that you want to be in when you play.
It's such a great sound too. Like it's like playing being a piano player too. Like there's such a piano like nature to
Yeah,
the instrument when you do it, and
absolutely. Yeah,
everything, man, like the most simple things are beautiful. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely,
you cannot
absolutely.
do much on the instrument. People are like, "Oh, that was so amazing." You know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so good.
I think you really hear that. I talked to Joey about this. Like the first couple of times we talked was in his playing in particular. He plays. There's a lot of parts that he plays that sound like an organ player would play. The way that
Hmm.
the chords, you know, transition to each other is the way that an organ player, you know, you have like you're holding some notes while the others are moving around those, and I don't know musical terms, but you know, like the way the notes move around, kind of like pivotal notes, is the way that a
Hmm.
piano player or organ player does, and with open tunings you can do that.
Yeah, it's all voice leading. That's the
Voice leading,
buzzword.
yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's
Hmm.
awesome. It's and
Yeah.
just to like get all nerdy, like Arvo Pärt is all about that, you know, like with the relationship between two notes, and that's what's awesome. It's not necessarily a chord. It's how does this note rub against another note, and how does it move, and that sort of thing. And I think it comes really naturally with open tunings.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And if anybody that is in this room or will watch this later on the channel, if you, I mean, I don't know about you, Matt. I mean, like when I did it, the first time I tried it, I just dropped my guitar to open E because I was like,
Mhm.
that's what Derek plays in. I'll just start
Yeah.
trying to cop Derek Truck's licks and like, see what he's doing.
Yeah.
But there's something about like in D or in C, it's just got more balls. It's like more growly and,
Yeah.
gnarly. Something about it,
Yeah.
man.
And I've really found that the only person that I've heard, and I know everyone's gonna scream in the comments, is like, no, so and so plays an open E, you know, so and so plays an open E. But really, Derek is the main one that I've heard playing open E, and almost everybody else is open D.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right there. And just to for the open tuning uh, new people, uh, open D tuning and open C tuning are the same. Open C is just a whole step down. Open E
Mm-hmm.
tuning is the same as open D tuning. It's just a whole step up.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not some crazy different tunings. It's the same thing. It's just different steps. So
Yeah, totally. But it's
yeah,
super fun. If you haven't messed with it, you guys should mess with it. Um,
yeah.
so when was like the first resonator build or attempt? Like when was, because I'm sure it's like you probably kind of were tweaking stuff, and you probably still are tweaking stuff, I'm sure.
Oh,
But like,
absolutely.
when was the first, like what year was the first one done that you were like proud of?
2012 was the first one. Um, so it was a decade-long wandering the earth type period after Roberto Venn. And then 2009, I lost my job that I was working at in Chicago. Yeah, just like everyone was kind of losing their jobs in 2009. And was like, okay, well, now what the heck am I going to do? And then ended up moving to Michigan where I grew up. And I played some shows trying to figure out, okay, maybe the musician thing is for me or not. And then I saw Kelly Joe Phelps play in Traverse City, and he was playing a resonator guitar. And, you know, that was the moment, the way people were yelling questions about guitar from from the crowd, and the way that he played it was so different. And then he made a joke about the chrome plating blinding the audience. So I left wondering if I could make a steel-bodied resonator, but make it look like the natural material as opposed to like a chrome plate or a powder coat finish. And so I didn't know anything about cutting metal or joining metal, or I'd never seen a resonator guitar in person, and just started Googling and buying tools and reading on internet forums and trying to piece together all of this metalworking stuff. And so I built the first one in 2012, and it took me, 6 months to build the first one to get like a completed one. I think I built 4 that first year. Um, then ran out of money, got a temp job for 2 weeks, had 12 orders for the guitars after 2 weeks, and then it just kind of went.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't realize, when you're starting off and you're doing it yourself, it takes a lot of time to build a guitar, like, and to do it
yeah,
properly, like, because think about like, what
yeah,
did you base all your neck carves on? Like, what were you like thinking about when you're like, okay, I want to make something ergonomic that feels good in your hand? Like, did you stick true
yeah.
to history? Like, how did you do that?
Well, so luckily when I was at Huss and Dalton Guitars in Virginia, I worked there for 2 years, and while I was there, I was mainly carving necks. So I carved necks with Jeff Huss, and while I was there, I think I carved 600 of them. So by the time I got to the neck part of the resonator, I was like, whew, thank goodness. Like, here's something I know how to do. But, in regards to neck shape, um, my philosophy on neck shape is that your hands aren't shaped like letters of the alphabet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't carve a C-shaped neck or a D-shaped neck or a V-shaped neck. I carve a neck that looks like your hand. I'm trying to get in the video. If you look at your hand here,
Yeah.
if you carve a neck that references this at least, if you like thick necks, you'll hold on to this neck and you'll feel something that you recognize as the reason you like thick necks. And if I like thin necks, I'll hold that neck and I'll feel something that I recognize as the reason I like thin necks. And it
Mm-hmm.
happens over and over and over and over again, where the first thing someone says when they pick up the guitar is, "This is the heaviest guitar I've ever picked up." And the second thing is that this is the best feeling neck that I've ever felt. And what follows that is, I really love thick necks, and this is perfect. Or I really love thin necks, and this is perfect. Or I really love V shapes, and this is perfect. It's the same profile. We don't do like a custom shape because we don't need to, because we know what a hand looks like. And so we can make it thicker and thinner relatively, but that's a very minute adjustment just to err on the side of someone's preference. But that's kind of what informs that neck shape.
Okay, so they're all the same from the Mavis to the Mule Caster to the resonator. They're generally the same. Okay, cool. I was
Yep.
wondering that because every time I've seen videos of of Ariel playing and stuff, I've always tried to like, like I'm gonna be able to see the difference if I move my head on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I've always wondered. I'm like, because I wish there was a dealer here that I could play one because I just want to feel. Because every time I see him playing, it looks like a really comfortable neck to play. And
Yeah.
dude, I have a quick story. So years ago, maybe like 5 years ago or so, I had some money in my pocket. I had sold an instrument, and I was in LA, and I was like looking for something just weird or different or cool. And I went into that Mesa Boogie store in Hollywood, and they had a
Okay.
Sir guitar, and I was like, "Oh, I've heard of Sir. Let me try. I'll pick it up and see what it feels like." And I'm not even kidding you. And this is probably the way I would even feel more so with your instruments, the way that you just described that. But like,
Yeah.
I felt like someone snuck in my bedroom and like measured my hand while I was sleeping when I picked that instrument up. I was like, "Oh my
Sure.
God, this is the most
Yeah.
comfortable thing I've ever played." But
Yeah.
like just hearing you say that, I'm like, I bet you if I played that, it would feel even better.
Yeah, and I think what that does is like anytime you try to get like super specific with that neck shape, you instantly like alienate a huge majority of people. If that V-shaped neck is really V'd, there's a ton of people who say, I would love this guitar, but I just can't handle that.
Hmm.
And because we don't have, Chicago Music Exchange is our only dealer, but because we don't use dealers, you can't do that. So making a shape that takes elements of all of those shapes so that you recognize something that you like in it is super important. And
Hmm.
that way I don't have to try to, if you tried communicating to me with words what your favorite neck shape is, I might interpret that as something completely different. And now we're way off track, you know.
Right.
And so I think we've got that. I think we got that pretty much nailed, um,
Yeah.
so that everyone picks it up and goes, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can
I think
like
it
this. So
I think it might be time to let go of one of these three sirs and get a mule. Somebody in the chat, BP saying, just ordered one, Mark. They're fantastic guitars, worth every penny and the wait. I believe it 100%.
oh,
I
nice.
told I told Matt before we started, I was like, dude, I have been a huge supporter. And I will be purchasing one of your guitars at some point. I'm like hoping
Yeah.
2021 is going to be the year. Uh,
Yes.
but so let's talk a little bit about the different models because
Okay.
so we've talked a little bit about the resonators, but talk a little bit about the Mule Caster. Let's kind of go in chronological order because Mavis came most recent, right?
Yeah.
Out of all the
I've
models.
got those here. So this is so we want to do Mule Caster.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So this is the Mule Caster. So the Mule Casters, they are also steel. They're the majority of them are powder coated now, but they are steel. And this one is a baritone, short scale baritone. I should say normal scale. It's a 25-inch scale length, but it's tuned down to open B. Um, so the Mule Caster is like a neck through. So you have a neck, and it's glued to a block that goes all the way through the body. And this strap button screw here goes into that block. So think about the neck as like the backbone of the instrument. The bridge is screwed into that block that goes through the body too. So that block is what takes up the string tension. That's the
Mm.
strength. That's what supports it. This is a shell. This isn't supporting string tension at all. That's what the thick wood is supposed to do. This stuff is supposed to vibrate. And so, like made the Mule Caster, it was pretty much just like, well, I'll buy a welder and figure out how to do it, and it would be cool. But when we did it, it kind of came out that this was a really different electric guitar tone. It wasn't a little bit different. It wasn't a little variation. It was a totally different feel. And I think the reason that is that you have this metal body and you have all of that sound ricocheting around inside of here. And what happens is you have a lot more headroom, like naturally, in your right hand. So when you play soft, it's very soft, and with a little bit of effort, it just goes, and it just spikes. And in the beginning, that can be tough to tame. It can feel uncomfortable, you know, where it's like, ooh, it got really loud really fast there. But what happens is that then you could lighten up on your right hand, and now all that musical inflection that guitar players, I hate to say it, is usually we have one volume. We're hitting those strings with a stick pick, and we're just, you know, for an hour and a half set, we're just like, we've got one volume on our right hand. But I think when you hear it through the steel body, you can't get away with that. If you were to do that, it's just like crunch, crunch, crunch. And so you can hear it in Ariel's playing, especially. He's got the touch, and it's just teasing you, but it's you in the teeth right away like that. And at least an element of that is because this guitar can just go. It's not just one volume where you really have to wail on it to get it to go. It's just a little bit extra with your hand, and suddenly it's a very musical element of your playing because it's steel. It's not this novelty. Hey guys, look, it's a steel guitar, aren't I cool? You need this to make that sound. There's not another. There's not another physical way of doing it. And that's what's exciting about the Mule Caster. It's not this novelty thing. It really is a musical tool. So.
Is it arched, Matt? A little bit? Is the body arched? I thought when you were holding up, it looked like it was arched. A little. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's that's like the hand bevel, so we bend this over to the side, and then on the tops and the backs, it's I don't know if you'll be able to see it. There is a slight arch to that, and that's because one thing that you fight with welding is if you heat this up too much, the thin steel will cup, and putting some sort of a pre-bend into it helps it resist that. So if you put it into a shape, now it has to fight that shape as you're heating it to get to cup, as opposed to flat where it's loose. Now it's going to be more prone to cup. So,
man, that's so cool, man. It's so interesting to like hear like how you're doing it. Where do you source your knobs and stuff from? I love those big knobs, like those circle knobs.
These are called cupcake knobs. Is like
I love them.
The style of them. Yeah, and I think WD Music sells these. You know, in the beginning, it was like trying to find stuff and, you know, all sorts of different sources. On the Mavis, these are DAC-aware knobs, like on the original Klon pedals.
Oh yeah.
And like these are made. They're just tough to find. I know it's kind of weird. That might be a better use. So, yeah, it's tough not to use the same knobs like in hardware like everybody else. But if you do the same thing like with the mini humbucker like bridges, yeah, we make these bridges here, so they fit the mini humbuckers. So.
And let me tell you something, man. And I've actually said this to you in your live Instagrams, dude. Those pickups sound magical. Now, I know it's the guitar too, and it's the hands of who's playing it and all that, but like, regardless if it's you playing it or somebody else, Ariel or whoever, there's something about those pickups, man. I don't know. I love they're throaty and like warm and like really super dynamic. Like I was like, man, like that's the main reason I want the instrument.
These are Mule. We call them Tom Humbuckers, and they're just mini humbuckers. Even though this looks like a gold foil, it's still just a mini humbucker. We just do that because it looks cool. So
they're super dope.
Yeah, so they're mini humbuckers.
good.
Thanks. Yeah, and they fit really good with the steel. We tried different pickups, P90s, and we've done a couple full-size humbucker Mule Casters, and they're super cool too. But there's something about that the steel plus the mini hum, the vibe to it that's really awesome. So.
Oh man, that's like the main reason I want to get one, and I can't wait to hear it through my Two-Rock. I'm just like, I know with a good fuzz pedal in front of it. Dude,
cool.
That was my midlife crisis, man. I turned 40 last year, and I sold a bunch of stuff and because I've wanted one forever, and it's just the studio signature. I mean, it's like it's right behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but it's cool. It's like that, like,
Oh, nice.
My buddy makes those. He's in Maine. He has a company called Synaptic Amps. Those are fantastic too. But like, I just always wanted a Two-Rock, and since like the early 2000s, I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to buy a Two-Rock. I'm like, well, homeboy, if you sell 3 of these amps, you can get one.
Yeah.
You know that drill.
Yeah. Yep.
So I wanted to ask you. So let's talk about the Mavis, because this is like the whole thing with this guitar. From what I can tell, is it's a perfect in between the Mule Caster and your resonator, but it's got some mojo. I mean, just look at it. If you were just standing in front of people playing that on stage, people are gonna think you're the next big thing. But talk a little bit about like the genesis of that.
So the Mavis is a kind of a special thing. So how do I want to start that off? So there's, we talked about how Charlie Hunter's playing, is an element in these instruments. How Kelly Joe Phelps is playing is an element in these instruments. And all of those things have been necessary. Without those players, I wouldn't be making these guitars. It's those little bits. So I met this guy, Sean, and he's excited. I've never said his last name. I'm not sure if it's like Barreau. He plays slide, but he plays it with a slide on each of the fingers. He plays
I've seen that.
And, and he's awesome, and he's such a great human being. And we talked he works at Graph Tech, and so we've talked at guitar shows and just got to be super good friends. So his playing is super different, and I would just listen, and I was just like, man, I want to build him an instrument to be part of the music that he's making, but I just didn't know what to build him. And we were friends for 2-3 years, and this was always in my head, and he'd post a video of him playing his thing, and I just feel, man, that's awesome, and I want to get him a guitar. And so one weekend he posted some music, and I was like, I could make him. I could make him this. And it was like all the pieces just kind of came together. All these ideas came together. And I went to the shop that week, and I told the guys, I'm like, so I'm not helping with production this week. I have to do a thing. And so what I built him was the first Mavis was a square neck version for lap playing, and what the Mavis is it's a resonator guitar, so it has a resonator cone in here, but it's a solid body roasted. This is all roasted maple, and it's an electric guitar. It's made to be an electric guitar. Mm-hmm. But when we got done with it and played it, it has this like crazy thick high end to it. There's this like timbre to this instrument that was just wacky. It was just, what is that sound? It's like this thick, raspy twang. It's kind of all of these sounds, and so I was thinking about the raspy high notes and thought about Mavis Staples, and so that's where we got the Mavis name from. So I posted pictures of the square neck version, and it was really kind of this like, hey, look at this crazy guitar I built for my buddy Sean. Isn't this cool? Like, back to production work. That's what Steel wants them to do. And then Jason Momoa commented on the picture, and he was like, bro, need it. And then he started texting me his ideas for one. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll make another one. And then made the round neck version. And then we were able to play more on it because it wasn't like a flat steel like type instrument. And then it was like, oh, like this is awesome. Like this is a thing. And so I posted some pictures about that instrument, and I put it up on the website, and I put like, it wasn't even final pictures. It was just like pieces of this guitar, and I opened up a list, and we sold 100 spots in 2 weeks for it. And people were just like, I don't care when I get it, and I don't care what it costs, and put me on the list. So,
man, you've got a great community too,
so
man.
it really clicks with people. It really, yeah, I agree. I think the Mule people that, are part of it are just awesome. They're just awesome human beings. So
yeah, man,
yeah,
I love seeing that stuff. I feel like the just like hanging out sometimes just seeing what you're doing on an Instagram live and the comments people are making and stuff. It's just such like a positive community, and deservingly, because like you're doing something that there's not a lot of companies doing what you're doing, like in the world probably, that are being as inventive as you're being too. Like you're pushing the envelope a bit, man.
Well, I think well, the resonator guitars, there's not a ton of people making resonator guitars, and I think we've been really lucky in that the people. It's a combination of luck and intent. From the get-go, I wanted to make a resonator guitar that maybe sounded more like an acoustic guitar. If people don't like resonator guitars, it's because it sounds too twangy. That's a blues instrument. It's not for me. So I wanted to make a different sound. And there's things that we do when we build them to give it a little bit warmer, a little bit more harmonic content. There's more of an acoustic guitar builder mindset when we build it. And then we had a bunch of really awesome players who said, hey, I could use for what I do, like Joey and Ariel and Charlie Parr, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think when people hear them play, they go, I love those guys, and I want to do what they do, and they can use this tool too, so can I. It's not your, I don't play Delta Blues, so I can't play resonator. I mean, we don't have a ton of full-on blues players, and that's been really fun. And I think that's part of the community aspect is that is a lot wider. And then something I've been trying to be intentional about is you very rarely hear me talk about ear stuff. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't talk about lines of pickups. I don't talk about how long we let the maple sit, or try to give people an idea that we're like the perfect resonator. I like hanging out with people who dig this type of instrument. It's you, sweet. And that's about it, And I think like you said, I think what that builds is a group of people who are cool. We're not debating whether this pickup is better than that pickup, or what type of screws you should use, or what height fret wire is better, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just, Brad, this is awesome. Did you see Joey's new video? Boy, that's cool. It's that sort of vibe, and I think that's something that's been missing out of the guitar maker community. I think a lot of times we can kind of get in our own heads and think everybody wants to hear about how much our spruce tops weigh, and they don't, or convince people. We convince guitar players that it's important. They're like, oh, the guitar maker is saying that the grain lines per inch on a spruce top is something I should pay attention to, so I'm going to. And it's really not that big of a it's not a big deal, and
Mm-hmm.
it should really be more about like, hey, this guitar is fun, play it,
Yeah. And
sweet,
whatever is
fun.
like, yeah, totally. That's what, I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, man. Like there, getting back to like I do this thing every week where I post like 2 or 3 videos on my Instagram account. I've been doing it for years, called 5 p.m. Crank and Amp. And I just sit down
Okay,
and improvise. And I just like, whatever comes off the
sweet,
top of my head, I just play for a minute and then I post
love
it.
it,
And
love
that's
it.
my end of the day, like clear my head because it's fun.
Yeah,
It's like eating sushi and like having that piece of ginger in between to clear your palate almost.
yeah,
It's like my mental palate needs to be cleaned after a long day of work.
absolutely,
And it's like,
absolutely.
and that's what you're doing. Like you're enabling people to cleanse their palate and to enjoy life. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's deep. It's pretty deep.
yeah. I was just gonna say, I like the weeds that you're getting into because I think I think a lot of times whenever we find these little niches of where we feel connected to other people, we can also, whether it's guitar playing or buying instruments or CrossFit, or I got into jujitsu last year, or something
Nice.
like that, or cycling, or we can suddenly move that to the top of the list. Like, this is my thing. This is where I am. This is what I'm going to dedicate all my time to. And that plays into this marketing mentality that if I tell those people who have drank the Kool-Aid that this is the ultimate, then they go, well, this is what I need. But for most of us, our guitar playing is very valuable to us, but it's very low on the resources it requires. Me playing guitar is exactly that. I get home, I play for 10 minutes just to go,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's it. I haven't finished writing a song in like 5 years. I don't take online classes. I'm not saying that you can't. Absolutely not. I'm just saying this is a super valuable part of my life, but it's a super valuable 10 minutes at the end of the day playing. And
Mm-hmm.
if we can approach people with that same mentality, it's like, hey, if this is for you, awesome. But if it's not for you, awesome. We're just doing stuff as opposed to trying to convince people that this somehow will unlock the key to their happiness. You know, it's not that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if we respect that, people feel that. They go, oh, you're not trying to bullshit me into something that I don't need.
Right.
So, yeah,
You don't get that greasy car salesman vibe from you at all, and which is the funniest thing, because here's a little bit of a blowing smoke compliment, is that for whatever how many 4 years that I've wanted to buy one of these instruments, like when I can afford it, and I will, like I said, I've never like felt that way, that I wanted one because you were like, you need to have this, you need to have this, you need to have this. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I don't feel that
yeah,
way at all from you guys. What I feel is that like I want to play one of those because it looks like it's going to be super inspiring, you
yeah,
know? And that's,
yeah,
what else can you ask for? You know?
yeah. And I think you know these are expensive. Like I said, like, I can't afford one. There's a lot of people who can, and that's awesome. But I understand that this takes a level of commitment in, like, saving your money. You're working for money so that you can trade your time with my time, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And like, the last thing that I would want to do is to pressure someone into doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to push you into deciding that. You you should be super comfortable and in a good life spot, so that you can do that. And when it happens, it happens. And
Yeah.
then everybody's way more happy at that point than if I was like, no, no, man, come on, you better get it while you can. So
Yeah. I mean, I have guitars I can sell. I'm not,
yeah,
that I can part with, but it's just really interesting to me. Like I never in a million years would have thought about like buying. Well, I mean, whatever. I've seen, you know, the Trussard guitars, and I've played those, and I haven't really loved those when I've played those. But like when I hear what's capable through your instruments, and man, again, those pickups and like the combination of the hard work and sweat and blood that you guys put into it, you know, that's the thing. Is like people are hand making these instruments for y'all. You know what I mean? It's like it's a thing. Like somebody, like when I get one, somebody or multiple people from your team had their hands on this instrument and the steel and like, you know, moved it and made it into this thing that now I can create something out of nothing. It's like such a, it's the circle of life.
It is. Like... and I think, and me and my maker, not just guitar makers, you know, I have friends who make tools and woodworking tools and jewelry and all sorts of stuff. And we all talk about this as this is a really great mechanism for connecting to other human beings in a time where we're really short on connecting to human beings, you know. And, you know, it's me and it's Will and it's Mike and Nick and Dennis and Matt here. This is our life. This is how we support our family. This is how we pay our mortgage payment. This is what we spend our time during the day trying to get better at, trying to come up with new ideas. This is our life. And when someone trades a part of their life, their time turned into money, for a part of our life, making of things, that's incredibly special. And and when you approach that like that as this really intimate connection with another group of people, it suddenly becomes less important where support material came from. It can be part of the story, but you're not approaching this instrument in a cerebral, like, well, maybe it's just a little this, because there's so much more built into it. And I think when it comes to buying handmade things, whether it's instruments or anything else, that's what you get. You know, you're part of that story, and they're part of your story, and that's something that you can't put money on, and there's no other mechanism for that happening. And I think that's real special.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when you were saying that, I'm reflecting, just like that's probably why it's like I want to be part of it. You know what I mean? Like I want to be part of that thing. It's funny because there's people in here saying, "Mark, you do need one. Get one." Like Dave and BP, I know. Trust me, man. I've been doing it. I got 3 sirs. One can go. It's funny. It's funny, Matt. I bought I got an endorsement with Sir, and so I bought a couple of guitars, and I have one. It's funny. I totally did this just almost to be funny with Joey, but like when I was studying with him, I bought a one of those surf green Sirs, and I threw one of those like tortoise pick guards, and I was like, "Look, I made a Joey Caster," and he was like, but then
"You did the Joey thing real good."
But I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, you know what? He would probably be like, "Dude, sell that," and like, because you got your own sound now. Like, you know, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I need my own personality now. Like, I don't need to be playing a guitar in open C that looks exactly like Joey's guitar. And that's why I was like, you know, I was like, well, yeah, maybe I can let go of that one. Everybody on Instagram was like, don't sell it. Don't sell it. And I was like, so, well, you want to do this lightning round get down, man?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do this thing. So this is, I always say this, it's like Fight Club, right? You don't talk about Fight Club. So you can't talk about this afterwards, Matt. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay, cool.
You can talk about it all you want. So just fun and games. I'm going to set this BPM at 105. This creates intensity. Don't be scared.
The pressure is on.
All right, my friends. First question is always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
I'm going to go with McCartney on this one.
Okay. Can you tell me why? I'm so curious. I'm a McCartney guy, too. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
I don't know. I'll keep it simple and just, you like what you like, you know?
Yeah.
You know it. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing with David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar, man. It's just like, you're one or the other. So
yeah, that's true. All right. Provolone or mozzarella?
Provolone.
Okay. Do you want gain from your pedals, or would you rather have gain from the amp?
I'm gonna go pure and go with the amp.
Okay.
So true to the maker's design.
Fair enough. All right, we got Thanksgiving this week. So you would rather bake a turkey or fry a turkey?
Oh, fried. Deep fried
Nice.
turkey is business. Yeah.
All right. Offset guitars or non-offset?
Not offset.
Okay.
Yeah, offset guitars. I go through phases with those, but
yeah, I tried to play it.
Same power.
Yeah, I want to love a Jazz Master, but I can't. They don't feel good around my body. I don't know what it is about it.
It's the same. Yeah, I'm trying so hard to convince myself I can't do it.
Yeah, me either, man. I know you're a football guy, right? So, but this is different. So, Tigers or Lions?
Oh man, it's gonna hurt me, but I'm gonna go with Lions because I like the pain of liking the football team.
All right. Deadpool or Wolverine?
Oh, Deadpool. Love Deadpool. Yeah.
All right. Glass or brass?
I'm back into brass. I was a glass side guy for a long time, but I'm digging brass. I need that extra bite.
All right. Tis the season. Home Alone or Christmas Story?
Home Alone.
Okay.
So fun.
All right. And then the last one. Sometimes it's the easiest. Sometimes it's the hardest. Wood or steel?
Steel, for sure.
All right.
There's this feeling to steel, and this element that you get that is pure. You just can't reproduce it, and so I mean, we're like 900 guitars in, and I'm still finding new stuff in them, and so I just love it.
Beautiful. Made it through unscathed on the other side. So, and you know what? Really quick, show everybody like your resonator. I want to just show that because we skipped over that real quick before we end.
Yeah, speaking of steel, so these are the resonators. So we'll get up close here on the patina there, and these are tricone resonators. So even though it's in a normal cover plate, this is actually a tricone in there, and yeah, this is our bread and butter.
Freaking gorgeous, man! Awesome. Woo! Yeah. That thing is like a cannon, man. That sounds so loud,
yeah.
even like. Woo!
And that's playing soft with the bare fingers, so got a lot of get up and go.
Oh man, so dope. Well, Matt, thanks so much for stopping by, man, and hanging out. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy dude, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is super fun. Thanks for letting me rant and ramble on us, and yeah, great.
Anytime, man, anytime. Super fun. I usually do these twice a week. I'm not doing one this Saturday because it's Thanksgiving and I want to chill. But
nice.
Next week, man, I got Tomo Fujita on. He's a Berkeley professor and has a big YouTube channel. And I don't know if anybody's hip to Jarl Bernhoff, who's the Norwegian artist. Oh, dude. He's on my show next Saturday. So I'm not even kidding you. Go check out his first record called Ceramic City Chronicles.
Yeah.
Dude, like, I think Ariel is a huge fan of him too, because I saw Bernhoff post something and Ariel was commenting on it. I was like, oh, I didn't know Ariel was into him. But dude, yeah, he's heavy, man. He's a heavy dude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah, man. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Really appreciate all the comments. Thank you for telling me to buy a mule. I will. Calm yourself. We'll take care of that. But we'll see you next time. All right.
Cool.